We're back for part 2 of this craziness, because this is a questionably smart idea. So, I have figured out what all these Ferris Wheel Press inks are, because they just have codes on the bottom of them, and when I did my swatches the first time, I did not add the codes to the swatch cards. This time, though, codes have been added to cards, so let's swatch all these Ferris Wheel Press colors. Most of them have been discontinued, so that's fun. I think actually like 90% of these colors have been discontinued, but lots of them are still pretty. Lots of them are the really early Ferris Wheel Press colors that were super, super pastel-y. So, there's our first card. Hello, welcome back. We are swatching a bunch of stuff ink-wise today. This is actually part 2. I did some yesterday, but I feel like it's time to re-swatch some of these inks, so let's do Malibu Blush next. So it's like sort of pink. I've still been posting. I just haven't done as many lives since Christmas cards. I did a lot of lives for Christmas cards. So we're just gonna work through the whole mass. We're gonna start with Ferris Wheel Press, and then we'll start pulling from the tray again, because there are still many, many swatches in the tray, or bottles in the tray, I guess. Not really. I've been mostly working with fountain pen brands, and so I haven't really been painting lately. It's also been really cold this winter, with very little sunlight and a lot of snow. And when we have winters like that, I find I don't paint, because I am just like stuck inside and it's gray and gross, and I just like don't feel like painting. So hopefully now that it's starting to warm up again, I will get back to painting more frequently. I just find I don't paint as much in the winter when our days are really short and I can't spend time outside. I guess I painted recently for an art challenge on Dusk Chatter. Oh, no, we are still solidly in winter. It was minus 21 this week, and it's minus, I think it's minus 7 today, but it feels like minus 15. So it's cold, but it's not as cold as it's been. I'm like sort of working through these by color family, apparently. It wasn't planned, but I seem to be grabbing them sort of by color. I am not. I'm in Canada. Lid's on all the way. So instead of painting, I've been doing things like working on things for YouTube members and editing. A lot of editing. I would say our summers are very nice. It's just like still very much winter here. It probably will be for a little bit longer. Probably have a couple more weeks of being cold. This was one of the first inks I fell in love with, and they've discontinued it. Actually, they discontinued it a while ago. I have a love-hate relationship with editing. But luckily, I'm not editing a edited Saturday video right now. So I get to do fun things like lives more often by getting rid of my Saturday upload for a little bit. Mostly because it's been cold and dark, and I'm really tired of editing. Let's do this one. This is the only purple in the bunch, and then we've got a bunch of blues and some greens. And one that's supposed to be pink, but has faded to a green because the dye in it was a little bit unstable. I've seen it in like house paint stuff, but because watercolors and inks both move, neither's fully permanent. It's a lot more challenging to do with something like that. This is another discontinued color. Actually, I honestly don't think anything from this point onwards hasn't been discontinued. They're all discontinued from this point. Up? Apparently not. There you go. Let's do this one. This is supposed to be like a light pink. It is not. It's a green. The dye was not stable in it, and so it is a green. It was actually a green when I got it. I got it secondhand from somebody in the Canadian Fountain Pen group. And it's green. I'm sure that the original color, the pinky purple, was very pretty. It was apparently very pale, but it wasn't a stable dye. It's totally all right. These things are always available as a replay later in the live tab. I do love this color though. Feels like a very springtime ink. It's all muted and pretty. Feels like a good like mossy springtime color. It almost reminds me of a green earth watercolor. It's super pretty. Just put it down. All right. Let's see if I can get some of this ink off my fingers from. Oh, I can. It was from the candy marsala bottle. But I don't want to go and clean my hands already. Peter Moss. I have this in a bottle as well. There are a couple of these that I've got in big bottles because I like them enough to get them in the 38 ml. Though I don't know that they're doing 85 ml bottles anymore for everyday inks. I think they're only doing 85 ml for fairy tales. Which is sad because there are some everyday colors that I do really like. But you can always buy multiple bottles of something if I really, really like it. Right. Blue Yosemite Falls. Sort of a tealy blue. The funny thing is all these blues look the same in their vials pretty much, other than Storied. Storied looks different. The other three look the same and do not on paper. I don't know that they're still doing the chargers. I think they've upgraded their sample vials to the little pots, which I don't have any of. Just with the old glass chargers, but there is something really nice about their old glass bottles. They feel very fancy. We are on Storied Blue. Can't believe we've got 3 left and then we're done the Ferris Wheel Press files. Actually, I think it took longer to figure out what all the names were. Which is a frequent thing I see, is the new dabblers came with these bottles. And there were many people posting asking if people knew what the colors were, because they just have color codes. And unless you know all their old color names, you wouldn't be able to identify what color you got. This is Storied Blue. This is actually what made me fall in love with Storied Blue. And you'll see that I've got a couple bottles of it because one of my bottles didn't swatch like this. There was a bad batch of Storied Blue that was green instead of blue. And so I've got the green batch and the blue batch of Storied Blue. And the green is what I tend to use if I'm like trying to figure out if a pen's clogged or not. It has to be my like dipping a nib test, or if we've done nib work, because I don't use it in a pen for writing. I'm just making a mess of my hands. might have to wash my hands once we're done with these, because they are making quite the mess of my hands. But luckily I have the Private Reserve ink remover, and it does a pretty good job. I often use it if I've got red ink on my hands. Right now, though, it mostly seems to be teal. All right, I'm gonna wash my hands. There we go. I believe it's called Ink Zero, but look at that. Honestly, it's such a good product, and I don't always use it, but it is nice on occasion. And I'm quickly going to see which Colorverse inks we did yesterday, because there are a couple that I have more than one sample of. Okay, it was just those two. Cool. Those are the two that we've already done. That's easy enough. All right. So, Da Vinci Glow and Moonlit Veil are what we've done. So I've got many samples from Colorverse. Just sort of making piles of cola ringbacks. And strings. Oh, I'm missing a back. That's annoying. I wonder where that missing back is. Because it's not in that stack. That's fun. Right, our papers. That's a Da Vinci Glow. Right. That's a Da Vinci Glow. What's this? Pannonia. right. So these are the same sample vials or the same syringes I used last night. I've just cleaned them with pen flush, which is my favorite way to clean a sample vial because it is incredibly fast. Not a sample vial, a syringe. It's incredibly fast. Let's make a little more space in this tray. So you are more dry than you seem to think you are. Next up we have a card, a color, Ferris Wheel Press Atlas Iron Ore. I love this color. I'm really sad I don't have a bottle of it. But I didn't pick one up thinking it was going to stick around for a while and or stick around like longer than it did, and it was quite popular. All right, let's shake this because you can see all the glitter. It's a very sparkly color. It is not the sparkliest black I own though. That goes to Monteverde Lightning, which I still haven't found a paper it hasn't bled on. Though I might try it on. I've got some Tourmaline River out. I might try it on that. That was also a glittery swatch. That should have been in the other bin. We did glitter colors yesterday. Because there might be a couple others that like have slipped through and ended up in the wrong sample bin over time. They were at one point all together. And then I got a second cracker container. And now they're all split up. All right, next color, Private Reserve Purple Mojo. Also, if you have any questions about like fountain pen inks and stuff, feel free to ask them, or fountain pens. I do love that purple. Such a good purple. What is this? This is Monteverde. Mango mousse. I feel like this is very similar to Wasp. I feel like this is similar to Wasp. All right, let's grab another color. I feel like I've done this already. Do I have 2 samples of Robert Oster Confetti Blue? That is the question. Yes, I do. Interesting. I didn't know that I had 2 samples of that. I feel like that was the Yosaka color. Is that the back that I'm missing? Ah, it is. I'm gonna move this pile of important stuff to the other side. I'll move these as well. I didn't know that I had 2. Charbon. J. Bon. This for a while was a frequent 20 questions color. Hasn't come up for a bit. Did I ever ink it in a pen? I don't know. It's very pretty. It's sort of like a grayish, reddish brown. With some purpley undertones. It's very pretty. That's a custom mix green. What's this? Sailor Kuzu. What line is this in though? Okay, it's a Manya. Continuing my conversation from yesterday, I feel like Sailor has too many lines of ink. I can't keep them all straight. And I don't understand what the difference is between some of them. Some of them seem like they could be part of the Manyo line. So if anyone knows what the actual reason that some of the really shading and sheening, or I guess shading inks aren't part of the Manual ink line. Like, I understand that Gentle became Shikiori, maybe. Gentle became a different line. Sure, but now they've got like 3 different lines that are all like sort of gray. Except they're not actually grays. They're like colors, but yeah. I don't get how Sailor breaks up ink colors. All right. Let's grab the card. What's this? Noodler's Black Swan. I don't actually own bottles of any Noodler's inks. I just own a couple samples from other people's collections. Oh, but there are 2 different versions of Black Swan. Which version did I decide this was? It's not on this Cooler ink. It's on this one. I decided it was Black Swan English Rose. It is a very pretty color. I just don't own bottles of any of his inks. Diamine Candlelight. It is so much more fun to swatch not by yourself. 1 second. Does this have a shimmer in it? I feel like Candlelight did have a shimmer. Nope. We're good. So people that travel to pen shows, how do you travel to pen shows with ink samples or nibs? Because I normally travel with everything in sample vials, but I'm always petrified that my nib sample vials are going to get mixed up and end up with my ink sample vials. So how do you prevent your nib sample vials, or how do you store your nibs when you're going to a pen show if you travel with spare nibs? Because like I normally will only take 1 extra spare pen that fits a Yovo size 6 if I'm getting nib work done, and then I'll take a couple nibs so that I have a clean pen, because most nib grinders want a clean pen and a clean nib for grinding, and then all my other pens can be inked. But I'm always petrified that I'm going to mix up which vials have my nibs and which vials have my inks in them, because they all do look the same. Oh, this is a Sailor X Tintoritos ink. I love these inks. Where's... Nope, that's Brandy Snap. There we go. Tint as these are such cool inks. I only have refried beans, but last year at Chicago I did get to swatch out the entire collection they've done with Sailor, and I believe it's called Corn Tortilla. I love. So pretty. It also shades. I guess it probably builds more than it shades. Really, really nicely as it dries. Like in this initial swatch, that's what it looks like as it dries. It's so pretty. I absolutely adore it. It's got like undertones of pink. It's so pretty. I always hope they re-release their inks that they do with Sailor, and they never do. So let's put these over on the desk, and I will then scoop that card up. Because there are so many little swatch cards right now, but honestly, because they're labeled on the back, I think they're going to be pretty easy to sort. And I'm just grabbing the ones that seem dry. Or dry enough. We've got the one sneaky shimmer swatch. Actually, they're all pretty dry. All right. Let's grab this one and stick it in the tray. All right. What's this? Oh, Diamine One More Sleep. This is an ink I currently have on my bottle list because I do adore it, but I don't know that I need it. I've got so many purple inks. I love how colorful the paper towel is starting to look. So magical. I love this color. I don't need a bottle of it, but I do love it. I need to run some more pens dry and then it can go in a pen. That was lucky. It slid off the desk. This is another Diamine. I have a lot of Diamine samples. This is very teal. I happen to believe, though, that it shades? Sheens? No, I think it shades. Because I don't love sheening inks. Or like inks that sheen so much that like they never fully dry. Because it really bugs me. Diamine, Sand Between Your Toes. One of my favorites. I have this in a bottle. This is one of the only ones that's getting a sample mark, purely because I do have this in a bottle. And I think they are ever so slightly different. Though Diamine is fairly consistent batch to batch, I've found. There isn't a huge difference Diamine batch to batch. This is what's in my Golden Gratitude Esty, except I've run it dry this month, and so it's currently not inked. This is normally what's in my Golden Gratitude. Oh, what's this? Ooh, Birmingham Pen Company. I love their inks. I don't own any of them in a bottle because they are hard to get in Canada. You can get them through Penablers, but they're the only people you can get them through in Canada. But one of my friends from Instagram sent me a couple of their samples. Did she send them or did she bring them to me? I got them in the Alice Sidewalk sale last year. I think she mailed them to me. Actually, I think she mailed them to our hotel so that I could try them because they are super fun. They are small batch though, and there is a huge variation batch to batch in their inks. So it is something to be aware of. Also, this ink can be everything from like this color to a green to a lilac-y purple, depending on what paper you put it on. How do you spell this? Oh, of course I didn't actually put it on the sample. I'm not coloring dipper. All right, let's go to Google. Actually, let's go to the Andrew Lamb site. Not the Avian series. ADONIS. I do love the Andrew Lamb inks. I just don't like their containers. I struggle to open them without making a mess. But they do make a good ink. So, swatch this out. I think I got too much ink on this page. It's normally a very pale blue. That's also the wrong end of this. Can I zoom in more on the workspace? I can. Clearly I don't film at this desk often enough, which I think is something we discussed yesterday, is the fact that I never film at this desk. All right. Diamine Harmony. So Diamine Harmony. Ah. I did see it. So I think they actually announced it on, when was I bugging Bryce about it? I want to say they announced it Thursday. Yeah. Yeah, I want to say they announced it Thursday. They announced it before Baltimore started. It feels very early to be thinking about buying an advent calendar, but I'm not. Really, the Colorverse one's more tempting than the Diamine one. I like the Colorverse 15 ml bottles more. I like the colors they've put out recently. Honestly, there's been so much pen world news recently that like I'm only just barely keeping up. But I do really like, I don't even know what color this was. I think it's a Diamine ink vent color from some year. I think it's you. What are you? It's called Harmony. It's very pretty. It's a very pretty purple. Helen of the Coffee Monster Co., who I had on who I had on 20 Questions, is releasing a pen with Estabrook. Visconti just released something at, I guess they released it just before Baltimore, but they're selling them at Baltimore because I've been seeing a bazillion pictures of them. But I did talk, I feel like I can share this. I did talk to Bryce about why it's being released this early, because I said I feel like this is really early to be doing it. And they're selling them this early, but they're not shipping until, I think he said September, because they had a couple delays last year. So by getting them in people's hands earlier, they're going to get them in people's hands hopefully in September, versus I think last year they arrived end of November, and for some people that was a bit tight if they were creating content on them. I did not get one last year, but I got a couple colors from the Colorverse calendar in samples from friends, and I do really like them compared to the Diamine color calendars. So we'll see. I think it's 180 US this year though, so I don't know. This is another Mont Blanc. This is Ultramarine. This is another one that's part of that blue collection of 3. Exactly. Because I don't know if they're doing it as, yeah. I don't know who has it though, because I looked at Atlas, but I also might have looked at Atlas too soon. I looked at Atlas as soon as Luxury Brands had made the announcement, and that might have just been too early to be looking for it. We are almost out of the syringes I cleaned yesterday. That was a bad idea. I know better than to pop an ink bubble. I know better than to do that. All right, Ultramarine. I like their Ultramarine. Several months ago I saw one of these sets on Facebook Marketplace, but I hadn't seen the colors in person, so I didn't pick it up, but it was a great price, and I sort of regret not picking it up now, because now I've got the 3 colors in my hand and I sort of love them. Are you swatching that out? Oh, if I swatch it from this, it saves me from having to get it out of that bottle. That seems like a win. All right. Next up is my Daily Black ink, because, oh yeah, that Visconti. Oh, I have to say previously the Iris Garden is the only one that I've gone, oh, that's stunning. But that new Visconti this week, I am obsessed. It is so far out of my budget and I'm obsessed. So, for now, we will continue to swatch inks, and I will just like lust after some very expensive pens. I really want to see I think it's called a Checkmate, is the Visconti pen, the chessboard one in person. I really want to see one in person. This is my favorite waterproof black. Honestly, Visconti sometimes just does things that absolutely blow my mind. And the Van Gogh is one of those pens. Like, I had heard that they had this really cool limited edition coming out from Mark at Coles of London, and the Van Gogh pen absolutely blew my mind in any content that I saw of it. And then I got to see one in person, and it was amazing. I don't want to use the back of a thing for this. I want to use a Q-tip because that will stain the back of my pen. And it's just such a stunning pen. I think there are a couple like that though. Like the new purple Visconti. I saw somebody post about it today on Instagram who's at Baltimore, and I just went, oh, that's so stunning. But I also felt the same way like when I saw the preview images of it a couple days ago. I was like, oh, that's really pretty. This is really splotchy. Let's see if I can make this less splotchy. It is a very dark ink. Cool, we'll go with that as our solution. It's still not great, but I think it's better, and it's gonna dry probably fairly flat. All right, what are you? You're another Mont Blanc, part of the blue set as well. Is there anything else that that's come out lately that I really want to see in person? Oh, is it the titanium nibs from Monteverde? So I've told this story many times. I desperately wanted to hold a Visconti Homo sapien. And I did it last year at Chicago. And I was actually I would have hated that if the pen was actually textured, but the fact that it looked textured and it was smooth just made me upset. And so I no longer want, like the Bronze Age. Like I have no interest anymore, which is really funny. It is smooth. I know. It looks like it's going to be textured, and it's really not. It's crazy, and I've told this story several times because I would have hated it being actually textured. I've got sensory issues. I don't like things that are textured. But it looked so textured, and it was smooth, and I hated it completely. Which is like removed like the Bronze Age or anything from my list. But I do really like the Iris Garden. So if you go back a month in not in Desk Chatter, on Coffee and Pens with Claire, we did an episode titled, I think, Visconti. Claire and Peter have quite the Visconti collection, and including the fact that they went on a tour of the Visconti factory while they were recently in Italy. Claire shows some really nice Viscontis in that video. So if you want to see a whole bunch of different Viscontis to like tailor your Grail list, because she has some pretty incredible stuff. Yeah. Where's she and Peter for Christmas this year decided that I needed a Visconti. It was, you know, time. And so I have a Visconti Mirage, which I adore. It's lovely. It's an emerald green, and it's got the magnetic cap. It's stunning. Right now it's got Cassia Sabi Midori in it. Oh, that's awful. That's awful. I love this pen. Maya Blue. I think we're gonna need to get more pipettes out today because I'm almost out of clean pipettes that I went through yesterday, which also means we've officially almost done more colors than we did yesterday. Honestly, if you don't have a Visconti pen, and want like an introduction to the brand, I think the Mirage is a great place to start. And the Poseidon's really pretty. I saw the Poseidon in person recently. And it is quite pretty. I think Atlas still has it, so if you use my affiliate, you should be able to get 10% off on it, if that is something that interests you, or like pick it up at whatever retailer you want. But I believe Atlas still has them. If not, I think Goldspot does. How did we, oh, we got on this topic because like the new Visconti. The Visconti, that's the Starry Night. I loved it in Claire's footage of it. I love Goldspot. Goldspot's great. Oh, you also have a Mirage. Yeah. Besides, yeah, clearly my reading comprehension is not great. Love Goldspot. Love their team. What's this? Birmingham Pen Company Amaranth. Pen Co. I do love these little glass bottles. I tend to use plastic sample vials because I don't know where you get these little glass vials. I only see them at US Pen shows. Really what I need to, I think, probably do at some point is do a sample cull, because there are some things that I've gotten as samples thinking I was going to like them and haven't. But I sort of keep the sample as like a reminder that I didn't like the color. Whatever. We're gonna leave with the smudge. So I tend to fill with them from just a converter, but that only works if you're using a converter pen. We're figuring out pen shows for the year. I will leave it at that. We're figuring out pen shows for the year. I'm definitely doing Chicago. There are some things in the works. So, the answer is no longer an automatic no. But we'll see. Ferris Wheel Press, Dearest Navy. I also love this color. It's a color I regret not getting from them when they had bottles. Though I think it was a Japan exclusive, maybe. Or it was a collaboration with a Japanese store. the real answer is it's no longer an automatic now. There is a chance that I will be attending the show this year, maybe. So we'll just have to see what the year brings. I am very jealous of everyone that's in Baltimore right now, though. All the Baltimore content is sort of killing me because there's some really cool stuff that's been launched in the past week, and Luxury Brands has the Pixie available for sale at Baltimore, and I am desperate for a Pixie. I think they are super fun, and I love my other Banu pens. And a Schmidt No. 5 nib tends to be very nice. This is too much ink. All right. My hair's falling out of its ponytail. The fact that we're like not even halfway through this tray of ink samples is terrifying. But as I said yesterday, when they're hidden away in a container, it's not really a problem because I can't see it. Except now they're like spread out, and we've done very few in an hour and 8 minutes. So let's keep going. Van Diemen's Kitten Paws. I thought I wanted a bottle of this ink. It was on Tom's list of like his favorite inks at one point from Gold Spot, and I did not enjoy it. It was just not for me. It was the wrong sort of pink. I can also never spell Van Diemen's without looking at demons. I always put the IE in the wrong spot. Like I flip them. Kitten Paws. Let's do this. I find this color too sort of greeny brown, and it doesn't dry as greeny brown. I don't love it. So I've only got one bottle, which is Dusk. I've heard that they have mold issues, but again, I only have one bottle, and it's a fairly recent purchase, so I can't really, I don't know how prolific those issues are. Consistency-wise, I find them pretty similar to they feel sort of similar to like Warengall inks. Like they flow a lot, but they also sometimes dry flatter than I want them to, and that's something that I find with Warengall inks as well. I find that Sailor Mano inks dry with a lot of vibrancy still, and sometimes Van Diemen's and Warengall don't. They sort of dry less saturated than it seems like they should. Other than that, though, like I haven't ever had issues with mine. Like I liked Dusk enough to get a bottle of it. Yeah. KWZ. So I would say it also really depends on the Watercolor inks. Like I have the Atlas exclusive in a bottle. I have the Robinson Crusoe in a bottle, and I've got a couple others in samples from friends. And like, I like them all enough, but like sometimes I use them on a paper and they just dry less saturated than I wish they would. And I really like, how vibrant the sheen, or I like how vibrant the shading of the Sailor Mano inks is. On most papers, it's going to shade, I've found. Whereas I find that the Watercolor inks that shade are pickier and won't shade on some papers. And as somebody that uses a lot of cheap paper, I want it to work on everything I put it on and still look fun. Even if it doesn't look as fun, I still want it to look fun. Colorverse Morning Glow. This is another one from the Advent calendar this year that I bought the entire set of 15 mils from because the person didn't like it. But I love it. So, Colorverse. I have a single bottle of Bon inks. And if you can tell me what video this is from, I will be very excited. It's great. I love it. I love it as much as he hates it. Now I sort of want to swatch it. Because it's sitting right there and I want to swatch it. Yeah, we're going to swatch it. So you will have to go back and watch Stephen Brown's episode of 20 Questions, which includes it actually includes two of my favorite rants in the entire series. One on fountain pen nib standardization and why it's ridiculous it doesn't exist. And a second rant on why Bouton d'Or by J.R. Bon is the stupidest ink in the world and why he hates it. And he hated it. There are very few inks that I've gone out after 20 Questions to buy. But it was such an impressive rant that I felt the need to go out and buy it. And nobody stocks it because it is really such an awful color. It is practically invisible on paper. No one stocks it, but Toronto Pen Shop was willing to order it in for me. But Stephen happens to have two of my favorite rants on 20 Questions in the same 20 Questions episode, which is a great time. So actually, can I find the episode and I will link it. So I almost fall out of a chair that has arms because, you know, that's how clumsy I am. SBRE. Sit Down with Stephen Brown. You found the episode. Good. It is a great episode. Honestly, to date, it is still probably in my top 5 episodes, and is actually probably in the top 3 episodes that I've ever filmed of the show, because it is ridiculously fun and sort of stupid and great all at the same time. And since then, Stephen has appeared on Desk Chatter. He sent me my first modern gold nib pen. Yeah. So, it's a ridiculously fun color. And partially because he absolutely despises it. And I guess it is in one of their sample files. I can count it as a sample. There were a few episodes that have just had some really fantastic rants. And I think of anyone else's. Who had a good rant on color? Oh, it's not out yet. One of the episodes this season has a great, I think it comes out in April. There's a great discussion on color. But this, according to Stephen Brown, is the most stupid color in the world. And because of that, I had to buy a bottle of it. Because if you have such an impassionate rant, such a passionate rant about how much you hate a color, and you can name such a specific color. A lot of the times people are like, this color family, and he was like, no, this specific color. Yeah. Oh, and so we talked about kitten paws briefly. It's supposed to be a pink. I hate how much green sheens. Like, look how green it is in places. I don't like it. I know some people that love it. It's just not for me. So, I'm sure there will be other really pale pinks that I love. It's just not it. Robert Oster Cherry Blossom. It is supposed to be a pink. I will pull up a swatch from somebody and drop it in the chat. Does Mantua Knitting have it? I think they do. Yeah, it's supposed to be a very pretty soft pink. And it's not. And I wish it was the color that she has on Mountain of Ink, because it's very pretty. I just don't like it. But I've also only got a couple mil of it left, and so I think I've got about 1.5 mil. So I will just like run it dry doing random stuff. Robert Oster Cherry Blossom. I know. And I know who made the sample. And it's from her own bottle that is labeled Kitten Paws. And it doesn't look like it's supposed to. And I know there's going to be a difference between like cameras and screens and what you see, but I've also seen Tom Odo swatches of it, and it was in his favorite inks for a little bit, and mine just looks nothing like anybody else's. So I don't know if it's a bad batch or what, but it's such a weird color. There is Robert Oster Cherry Blossom, and I've realized that I did promise you yesterday that I would show you 2 Robert Oster swatches once they had dried. And I have to see if I can find them, because I've shuffled some stuff around. There's Polar Vortex, old. Haha. So we talked about color difference on this color yesterday. Yeah, I don't think I've Ken Paul's either. The top one is the old Polar Vortex, and the bottom one is the current bottle of Polar Vortex, which is fun. This is the color I want. So if anybody's selling their bottle that's this color, DM me on Instagram, because I would like to buy it. Yeah, so the old one was much more blue than this current batch. So I'm wondering what the batch they'll have at the Chicago Pen Show will look like. Private Reserve, Ebony Brown. This. Diamine Raspberry. It says Raspberry Rose or Raspberry Rose. Raspberry Rose. All right. I'm gonna pretend to be smart and not pop the bubble. All right. I love this color. It's very, very pink when it dries. It's more pink than this when it dries. Ah. This is gonna be the last of this ink, I think. Maybe not. Ferris Wheel Press, The Lights of Broadway. A little bit left. I think there's enough for a Kaweco mini converter fill. That's probably about it. It's a very pretty pink though. All right, let's empty this tray of what's dry, because not all of it's dry. All right, we're gonna leave those ones in the tray. It's not quite dry. That one is. But those four aren't. So let's flip and flip. And now we've started it again. All right. What's this? Sailor Ink 641. Is it Ink Studio or Studio Ink? It's Ink Studio. I also don't understand this line. I know theoretically there's like a numbering system, and the way the numbers progress like tells you what the color should be. I don't understand the numbering system for these things. I've tried to learn it. I've not succeeded in learning it. What is this actually? 641. What do I have this in? Clearly I've got it in something. Oh, I've got it in the pen from Monteverde. I've got it in their new little thing. What is it actually called though? Dakota. Got it in the Dakota. I might have to DM Drew and find out if he can give me a run through of how the numbering system works. Because it's one of those things that I do remember that episode, but it's just one of those things that I've never like been totally able to understand. It's the same issue I have with this line, and there are two other lines, or there's another line. I think it's Shikiori and this line. I don't understand the differences between the two. honestly, yeah. And also, this is the only one I own, and I only own a sample of it. I do need to get a bottle of it, though, because I really like it. I'm not a teal inks person, and I adore this. And for like the 3 people that have figured it out, yes, this is why I was applying more command strips to my desk last week with a Galen ruler, so that I had a place to hang all these new swatches, because I was tired of trying to figure out what inks I had from which brands. And really, my cola ring swatches are the only swatches I ever use. That's a custom purple. That's not getting swatched. What is this? Mont Blanc. I feel like this name could have been a lot less complicated for cobalt purple, but what do I know? Also, I think this sample's from Aziza over at Gourmet Pens, because I do not own a bottle of this. But I think when we were at the Pelican Hub, actually I think this came out of one of Aziza's pens. That's smart. I should do that. Instead, I just like, yeah, so I ink from bottles, but so these are all samples from random ink trades, or actually almost all of them are from random ink trades, because there are oftentimes a lot of inks that I'm interested in, but like once I try them in person, I don't really care for them. And so I do a lot of trades, and sometimes like if I'm sort of bored, I'll do a random ink trade with somebody where I won't even like know what I'm getting, because it's fun and it's fairly inexpensive, and it's a great way to like try something new. And lucky for me, most of my ink collection is very public on the internet, and so I very rarely get duplicates. Punch. So we are a single syringe away from being done. Or not done, like from being how many colors we did yesterday. A lot of these samples are from Kari, because whenever we get together, she supplies me with many, many ink samples. Honestly, they are one of my favorite forms of content to make because I love color. And while I don't need a bottle of everything, if I can experience as many things as I can through samples and get to like try them and figure out if I actually like them or not, I'm gonna do that. Navilar Explorer Orchid Blossom. This is the only Navilar ink I have. I also got it. Oh, I got it from Laura at Cosmic Creations. This Faber-Castell Pit marker is really putting in the overtime this week because it's really the only pen I'm using for labeling swatches currently, because I don't want to fill up my black pen because I always get ink on my hands, and it's really hard to get permanent ink off your hands. I just learned that one of my mics can overheat. That was fun. And my back. My back. No, apparently, my mic can overheat, which is good to know. Gold Spot does random sample packs for free. Which, you know, is super fun. Honestly, I like random sample packs of ink. I think they're fun. But I also don't know who... I think I know who you're trying to avoid, but I might be wrong. There is the affiliate link for shopping at Goldspot for the mystery samples. They are hard to find if you don't know what you're looking for. Okay, great. I was pretty sure I knew who you were trying to avoid, but like, you never know. White Hole. Have I done White Hole? I want to say I haven't done Colorverse White Hole. Does anyone remember? Oh, what are you? No, I've done Colorverse Morning Glow. Okay. Well, I think I've only done Morning Glow. If I have done White Hole, I'm just going to swatch it twice. And I will deal with that later. Actually, I'll probably deal with it in a live later on this week because I have a week off from physio and occupational therapy. And so this will be happening a lot this week because why not? I mostly order from Atlas and Goldspot, but also right now my pen budget is what I get in affiliate credit from Atlas or Goldspot and what I make in YouTube ad revenue and memberships. So my pen budget is limited this year, but I am going to make it work. And I'm like prioritizing things like paper that I frequently need in videos. Because, yeah. I love this color. I have it in a pen and Mom has it in a pen. I got it in an Esterbrook. And I don't know what she's got it in actually. I remember she inked it up in something. Now I can't remember what I put it in for her. I'm quite sad that this one didn't make the advent calendar cut from Colorverse because I think it's spectacular. I've dropped my pen. That's annoying. Right, here we go. That's a custom. What are you? I have to Google how to spell you. I don't feel like Googling how to spell you. Nope, that's a custom. Ooh, I'm still sort of sad that I didn't get the Colorverse Advent Calendar last year because there are colors like White Hole and Morning Glow that I really love. But I'm hoping that more people will decide they don't like them and no, I think it's 180 everywhere. Yeah, I think Luxury Brands and Bryce said that it was going to be 180 this year. How much am I going to complain cleaning this thing of syringes tonight? Probably quite a lot. All right. Let's grab another card. What's this? Ferris Wheel Press Frivolous Lime. I feel like this was also recently discontinued. That is Ferris Wheel Press Frivolous Lime, which I think, I want to say it was in the list of colors they discontinued in August. And I did really debate getting a bottle of it, but it is sort of similar to Monteverde Key Lime Pie. Like, sort of similar. They're both bright greens. And I don't use bright green all that often, and I have a bottle of key lime pie, and so I decided I didn't need a bottle of frivolous lime. I am doubting that now, because I do really like it. So we'll see. If it's still in the clearance section, I might pick one up. Ooh. Yeah, so I picked up a lot when they discontinued the last batch in April, or in August, because they also discontinued Madame Mulberry and Dusk and Bloom, and Storied Blue, and Stroke of Midnight, and Peter Moss. Like, they discontinued a lot of things that for me were pretty core inks in my inked up. And so I think I picked up an extra bottle of Storied Blue, but I've got like, I want to say I've got 200 mils of Dusk and Bloom, because I also had points. And so I was just redeeming points and using them for shopping in the second, or the last chance. I don't think this lid's on. So. Good enough. Yeah, so. Mom loved Stroke of Midnight. That was her, I would say that was the first ink she sort of fell in love with. And so we did get a second bottle of that. And I've got an extra bottle of Madame Mulberry. I like that you know exactly how much you have left. Honestly, that's how you know that somebody is obsessed with a color. So I have both. I have real storied blue, and then I've got storied blue from the screwed up batch where it was green. Yeah. And I got it first as in the carousel sample pack. So I guess I've had 3 containers of storied blue in the studio over time. It is absolutely my jam. This is Dark Lilac 2024. I have not tried the OG version of this, but it's also one of those things that I'm afraid if I try the OG version, I will fall in love with it and never be able to get it. Hello, Lori. I've decided that I need to have all my ink swatched in a different way, because why not? Also, I saw the pen that Jay brought home from Japan for you, and it is so pretty. It's such a pretty sailor. Can I get the lid off this? I can. I think this is from... Oh, it's got a bubble. Am I going to regret this? Oh no, it popped itself. It's from Kari, actually. Kari labels her sample files very neatly. I do not label my sample files that neatly. Like, sometimes she even includes a color swatch on the end. Oh, that's lovely. It's a very pretty pen. I think I've put too much ink on this page. All right. So I want some of it to not sheen green. And yes, I am using the back of a glass pen, dip pen for this because why not? I did that yesterday. Everything's all clean, everything's all tidy. And I still haven't cleaned up the other desk. It's still got literally everything I cleaned yesterday on it. And I have to say, all the talk of the slip and zip folio yesterday, Expansy from Galen, or the Expansy, what is it actually called? The Expansy folio from Galen in the comments yesterday has just made me want one more. I desperately want one, so I need Atlas to restock them or for Goldspot to stock them. It's just one of those tasks that's so satisfying to do because there's such a sense of accomplishment when it's done. Yes, the chat did have a big discussion about leather care. It is really cute, and like it feels so practical because like I'm carrying a slip and zip and a traveler's journal that's got right now a business card insert, a zippered insert, a slip-in insert, and a notebook. Like my traveler's journal is mostly storage for stuff, and then also has a pen loop on it. So like I feel like if I had one, everything would stay together and I wouldn't have to deal with everything being spread out. So hopefully somebody restocks them before the Chicago Pen Show. We'll see. Because Goldspot currently only has it, or Atlas currently only has it in black, and Goldspot doesn't have them at all. And I really want it in the Crazy Horse Navy. the chat should be there if you want to scroll through the chaos. But it was fun. And then I've got this week off of occupational therapy and physiotherapy. So there will be a lot more lives this week because I have nothing else to do. The Esterbrook cube does look good and interesting. I might pick one up from Goldspot. I like the idea of it, but I also know that it's one of those things that I feel like even if I got it and I didn't use it, I could probably resell it afterwards. So I might get one and try it, and if I don't use it, I'm sure somebody else in the Canadian Pen Group would like one in the future, secondhand. So I think that's probably what's going to happen. This is Kiwi Ink's Lavender. This is the only ink I have from them. And it is part of the 5 purples I have that all look the same. Exactly. I have a blue pencil case that just sort of becomes a catch-all, which is a sort of a discussion we've had before on this channel, is that my blue pencil case becomes a catch-all for everything. But my big issue right now is that I'm petrified that I will, because I store my spare nibs in sample vials, I'm terrified that I will screw up at a pen show and accidentally trade a nib instead of a sample vial of ink. So I need to figure out a better way to store my nibs for pen shows, because when I go to a show and I'm getting things custom ground, I only bring one size or one clean pen that fits a size 6 nib, and I'll just pop nibs into it as I get things ground. That would be smart. Or like even different colored caps. Like that might be enough. But currently everything I do is in like the white or the clear with the blue lid, with just like Sharpied about what nib it is on the top. And that feels dangerous at a pen show. So we'll see. I own like 5 colors that are this color from 5 different brands. I like this type of purple, but at this point I cannot get bottles of anything in that purple anymore, because I have too many. What's next? I'm tired of having to look up colors. So if colors don't have, like this Sailor does not have the full line. It's missing what Sailor line it's part of. It's currently going into the like, I don't want to deal with you right now pile. If I have to look anything up for you, I'm not dealing with you currently. Part of the name on that's covered. That's going there. Birmingham Pen Company. Oh, I know what you are. You're over here. We're here at the 2-hour mark today. We're here. I will say we've swatched one bottle, which was Bouton d'Or, because I got off topic and started talking about Spree's rant. So we have made progress. We just like haven't made enough progress. What are you? You're this. You're Magnolia Mirage. You can always go back and watch the replay. Honestly, it's mostly been us talking pen shows. Continuing my, I don't own a single bottle of Birmingham Pen Company ink because they will not ship to Canada and there's only one Canadian supplier. This is Magnolia Mirage. Honestly, it's so much easier to do these sort of things when you're not just sitting in the basement by yourself. Because if you're sitting in the basement doing it by yourself, like, it's sad. And if you're doing it on live, like, people will hang out with you. Though I'm not looking forward to cleaning all these pipettes. Honestly, I don't know that there's anything I love that much from them right now, but in the future, I will take that under consideration because there are definitely some things that they've released. Like, I do like sterling silver, but I've heard recently that there's been a huge color change in it. So that's sad because I do like, I can't find where it is anymore. I do like the color. And I could always order from Penablers, but let's hope Irajoku is spelled correctly this month. Oh, I'm jealous that they're at your pen club. Oh, there's a bottle of it right in front of me. They are super fun inks. I've got a couple samples from a couple people. The coolest one I have is probably Tesla coil. The downside of Tesla coil is that it pretty much never dries. And so if you use it, you are just like sort of stuck with the fact that it never dries. This is Kirsame, which is the only 2 bottles of Pilot ink I own are inks that were both discontinued this year. Because I had loved them as samples and then they got discontinued and I bought bottles of both. But I also need to get a bottle of Yamabudo. I've had it inked up recently. I'm almost out of my sample of it. I love that color. And I've been saying that for almost a year. I sort of ignored it until it kept coming up in 20 questions at the Chicago Pen Show last year. And now I'm like sort of obsessed with it. But I keep forgetting to buy a bottle of it. And because of that, I come home from a pen show and I go, like, it's just not something I buy when I'm home. And I need to get it. This is Private Reserve Sepia, which I think was in my brown video where I talked about Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. It's a sepia. Tesla coil is really pretty. I'll see if I can find my sample of it. Well, the sample of it's like somewhere in this, but I've got a swatch of it on a cola ring. I think it's in the blues because I don't have a whole bunch of sheening inks, and so I just like stuck it with its base color. Also, this is becoming a much prettier piece of art. See, the thing is, I don't necessarily want a smaller bottle of Yamabudo. I really like it. The issue is I get so busy at a pen show that I just sort of forget unless I've got something pre-ordered. So basically, as soon as Atlas opens pre-orders for stuff with Chicago Pen Show pickup, I will be ordering a bottle of it. But until then, I just have to keep reminding myself that I want it because it's also currently out of stock at Atlas, or it was when I went to link it a couple days ago. Where's Tesla coil? It was in here, is it not? Wait for it not to be called. Ah, there we go. Look at that. Amazon in Canada, like, sometimes has the Pilot inks for the same price, and sometimes they cost like $90 a bottle. I was really lucky with Kirsami that it was actually below retail. But normally when I look at inks on Amazon in Canada, they are way above retail. But apparently Lori is saying that Amazon has some good deals on it, so I might go and look once I'm done this, because I would really like a bottle of it. This is the only Esterbrook ink I have. It is their aqua. It always feels more blue to me than aqua, but it is very pretty. And I did accidentally knock it over at one point, so it has once been saved from my desk. So. Don't feel like that lid's on all the way. Well, that just happened. Let's... Sure, fine, I will get this back out. Desire to not clean another pipette is real at this point. Ooh, that's interesting. I don't do much shopping on Etsy these days, but I should check it out. Lots of Canadian stores right now actually aren't shipping ink because it's still below freezing here. But I do know that in a couple weeks, people like, oh, what's their name, in Calgary are going to be shipping ink again. Gilded Rabbit. And they are a lovely little art store if you're Canadian and want somewhere else to shop. I love shopping there. They also sometimes have some quite obscure stuff that's harder to get. Yeah. So I don't like, I only have, do I have 2 Pilot pens or 1 Pilot pen? I think I've got 1 Pilot pen. And so I try not to buy their cartridges. A very pretty muted purple. It's becoming like a weird floral arrangement of pipettes. But also, it's going to be dinner shortly, so I thought we'd finish all the samples today. I was wrong. So pretty. I should do an inked up soon where it's just samples. Colorverse Moonlit Veil. I've done it. What's this? Birmingham Pen Company Fighting Fish. I think this is blue. Sometimes I think the paper towel when I'm done a project like this is the most fun thing. Like, sure, the swatch cards look pretty, but honestly, the paper towel looks like so much fun. They do good names. This is another pilot of Roshizuki ink, which I also think was discontinued this year. S-H-I-Z-U-K. I know some people call this, I think it's, I never know how to say it, M-O-M-I-J-I. Some people call it a red. I always find it too pink to be a red. To me, it's always a pink. Oh, I love that we're just now smudging ink everywhere. That's great. What sort of price point are you looking at spending per brush? Because that's the big question. Watercolor brushes can be really expensive. And so it's like, how much do you want to spend a brush? But also, not totally off topic, because I do not use my high quality watercolor brushes when I work with ink. I use my cheap watercolor brushes when I work with ink. So if you can sort of give me like a price per brush you want to spend, I can tailor my answer more. Because watercolor brushes can get really expensive really fast. Yeah, like this isn't a red, it's a hot pink. I'm sorry, if you think this color's a red, you're wrong. But also, this tray is full, and so we're going to put it away. Also, I cannot get over, like, I took so much ink off that card, and it's still mostly green. Okay, I can actually grab stuff from my other desk once I put these down, because I have stuff in both ranges, because I use pretty diverse mix in the studio, because actually the best brushes that I use for tiny trees are not the most expensive small round brushes, because the most expensive tiny round brushes aren't actually thin enough for tiny trees. So I will grab my favorite paintbrushes. I've got about, I don't know, I've probably got like 40 different paintbrushes on my desk. Because that is what happens when you make videos on watercolor for a long time. So. we've just grabbed the cup. So these are my daily use brushes. For expensive, Tintoretto 1327s, which are synthetic squirrel. In my opinion, Tintoretto synthetic squirrel is some of the best synthetic squirrel you can get if you're not going to be using actual sable hair brushes. These are hard to get. Gortzman's in Toronto, which does ship to the US, sells them. That's where I got mine. I think Jackson's sells some of the Tintoretto brushes. Last time I checked, they didn't sell these ones. I will also say mine look fairly beat up, but I have painted with mine nearly daily for, when did I get mine? Did I get mine in I think I got mine in 2022 in January because I won a gift card from Gortzman's. They have been used. It's why the number 2 does not have a huge tight tip anymore. These are my favorite brushes. And if you're going to spend that type of money on synthetic squirrel or squirrel, this is what I'd go for. Also because they are travel brushes, and so you don't need 2 sets of brushes. You've got a single set. I have a 2 and a 6. Someday I will get a 0 because I never paint large enough to need an 8. I have tried Princeton. This is a Princeton. I've got a couple others. I like them. But for the price point of a Princeton, you're not that far off of synthetic squirrel from Tintoretto, and I find the Tintoretto synthetic squirrels better than Princeton brushes. In the, I guess this is also a Princeton. In the lower end, the Princeton, this is technically labeled as a Princeton mixed media, but it works incredibly well for watercolor. And then the other one that I'll use frequently is, here's what I'm looking for. These them. Anything that's got the really white fine hairs, and specifically the lower end that's really, really soft. I quite like. These are, again, brushes that I'll use for trees. Here's the one that was Christmas trees this year. Like, you can see, was that Christmas trees this year? No, it wasn't. I do have, I feel like I had one of these for Christmas trees this year, but maybe I didn't. Oh, but this is funny. Like, you can see, so these are 3 of my round brushes in various states of, they're all the same size, but they're in various states of losing their points because these are what I use for tiny trees. These are 000s from Dynasty. They're not super high quality brushes, but I find them the best for detail work because detail brushes never last a very long time, even if you spend an incredibly large amount of money on them, they will not last. I've spent, $15 or $20 on a detail brush and it has not lasted. And so I would rather spend $6 on a detail brush that I'm going to replace in 3 months versus spending $20 on a detail brush that I'm going to replace in 3 months. What else is in this cup of magical things? I also, like, at a lower price point, the Royal and Land Nickel watercolor brushes, again, this at one point was, is this sort of really soft, sort of beige color. I really like them because they hold water, but they don't hold a lot of water. And so if you're learning how to control water, that is nicer than something squirrel, which is naturally going to hold a lot of water, even synthetic squirrel. So those are my recommendations. Also, like, just going to sometimes a store like Michael's and just like looking at brushes and feeling brushes. For watercolor, for me, I always want really, really, really soft. So this is actually, Michael's had this labeled as an acrylic brush, but on the Royal Land Nickel site, it's labeled as a watercolor brush. And so I've just over the years learned like that a really, really soft brush is what I tend to like for watercolor. And I guess at some point I needed this shape of brush. So there we go. There's a crash course in watercolor brushes. And then I've also had, again, they're not here. For a while, my favorites that was actually from the dollar store. They've all become shimmer brushes over the years. But they are super great because, I guess we're grabbing all the brushes, because why not grab all my paintbrushes? Because I literally have bins of paintbrushes. So, more paintbrushes. These are more watercolor in obscure sizes. So like a 26. How often do I need a 26? Honestly, it's so much fun. I never get to talk about paintbrushes. There are very few people that are interested in hearing about paintbrushes, and honestly, I've been swatching for like 2.5 hours. Simply Simon's brushes. They're pretty cheap. Here they're about $4.99 a brush. They're not top of the line, but they are very good brushes. I own them in clearly a variety of sizes. Purple nail polish differentiates a shimmer brush. But if you want to try a whole bunch of sizes and learn what you like before you invest in high quality brushes, I would go with the Simple Simon's brushes, because they're still a very good watercolor brush at a much lower price point, and you can learn what you like before you invest in expensive brushes, because sometimes the brush you think you'll like is not what you'll like in an expensive brush. Like I thought I was going to really like 8. And I don't. You can also see all the dead tiny brushes go to the metallic section to dye. Once they've served their purpose as a matte brush, they become shimmer brushes, and this is where brushes come to die. But yeah. So, oh, there's another Princeton. But I would, honestly, if you're not totally positive in what size of brush you want, I would go with Simply Simon brushes, because they are so inexpensive a brush. Because if I'm paying $4.99 for them here, I think they're probably $3.99 there. And so you can just try a whole bunch of brush sizes, figure out what you like, and then invest in a couple high quality brushes, which is what I did. I went and I got 2 Tintoretto brushes, and have I invest in high quality brushes, but only in the sizes I use. There's no reason for me to have a high quality round size 26 brush when I paint that large so infrequently. I'm just gonna stick to the cheap one because it serves its purpose. There's Colorverse Morning Glow. Pelican Violet. Let's go back to swatching inks, though it is 6:30, and so dinner will be shortly. Exactly. And I would say I probably, when did I would say I didn't put big money into brushes until I'd been painting for, and painting a lot for 2.5 years. And even then it was, I won a Gwartzman's gift card, and I decided to treat myself to something that I would never buy ordinarily. And that was really expensive paintbrushes. Because I think at the time they were $25 and $30 a brush. And I think they're still about that much a brush. And I now know how long they last, but previously, that was a lot to spend on a paintbrush. Yes, it is. Because I never want my brushes to just like, they live a life in as like a normal watercolor paintbrush, as a matte paintbrush, and then they move to a shimmer brush where really they don't. So these are the synthetic squirrel. They are the Tintoretto. Apparently I can't spell Tintoretto. 1327s. So they're the synthetic squirrels. They're not actual squirrel, because I could not afford the actual squirrel brushes. And so I went with the synthetic squirrel because Tintoretto has some of the best synthetic squirrel. And it's one of those things, like I didn't want to fall in love with something that was so far out of my price range I'd never be able to afford it. The reality was, like, if I saved up for a very long time, yeah, if I saved up for a very long time, I would someday be able to afford the other, I think there's 3 other brushes in the 1327 set. It was going to be possible for me to finish the set someday or replace brushes as they died. Whereas once you start getting into their real squirrel brushes, they get much more expensive. And so I've actually never, I think I've only painted with real squirrel brushes once. And those were a friend's brushes. And it's one of those things, much like many expensive pens, like I don't want to fall in love with it because I just can't afford to fall in love with it. But also now I know like how long these brushes have lasted with some pretty rigorous painting and not always letting them dry fully before capping them. Like honestly, I've not been the kindest to them at times in their life, and they have survived incredibly well. So, Cold Steel. This color is very blue. And I always think it shouldn't be as blue as it is. I always think it should be more gray. But Cold Steel is like a very, very dark blue. Which is not the color I think of when I think of cold metal. Like it's like a purpley blue. It's not the color I think of when I think of cold metal. Right. Private Reserve, Vampire Red. Oh, this is the one that feathers like crazy. Also, like, once again, Kari labels everything so nicely with a little label maker. I do not. I like Sharpie on the lid. Do I need to be stepping up my ink sample game? Don't know. See, my issue is that, like, normally I'm packing them up just before we leave for an event. I think I was most prepared for the Atlas Sidewalk sale this year, and that's purely because I was really bored in the middle of the summer and did them all on YouTube Live. And we spent many hours while I packed ink samples, which may or may not happen for Chicago this year. Diamine Nightshade. But I just, like, I label things with a sticker and like a piece of, like, a label for a package and a piece of tape, or I like write on the lid. Like, I'm not fancy in my ink sample labeling. Is anybody going to pen shows other than the Chicago show this year? I know a couple of people are going to DC, but what shows are people going to? Because it's Baltimore and I've got, you know, FOMO. Except I don't really, because, like, except I do. I wish I was there, but, like, also I'm okay with being home. It's weird. Like, I wish I was there to see people, but, like, other than that, I'm okay. So what pen shows are people going to this year if you're attending shows? That was Diamine Nightshade. Only Chicago for Bailey. Well, the funny thing is, like, if you look at the show calendar, there's like two shows a month. Really. In North America, from now until like November, at least. And some months like October have more than 2 shows. October, I think it's October and August that have more than 2 shows. Because I was looking at the full calendar on the well-appointed desk. It's very busy. I feel that. Especially because there's a border that separates me and most shows. Ooh, Kobe bitter chocolate. Because Shannon has a bunch of the Kobe inks. I need to put this in a pen. It feels like a very summer garden pen. It is a gorgeous color. It is super pretty. It's a very, very pretty dark brown. And I'm not normally a dark brown inks person. It is called bitter chocolate. This is Private Reserve Avocado. I do love the everything that, you know, Sailor and Kobe do. Because I believe Sailor makes the Kobe inks. I might be wrong, but Sailor makes inks for everyone. It feels. I wonder how many pipettes I've actually used today. It feels like I've used a lot. This is another very summery ink. Ha! It's Brandy Snap. Oh, the fact that this ink got over 160,000 views on YouTube is still crazy to me. Like, the fact that this was my first, it was this that was the first video to pass 100,000 views is a little bit silly. I'm very grateful, but it's a little bit silly. All right. I don't know, we might call it a day with that. We've still got that, plus the couple that were missing information. So I guess we'll plop those over here. That's fair. But I think we're gonna leave it there. Actually, let's look at all the Colorverse ones that I've done. Maybe that'll make me feel more accomplished. Is that another Colorverse? It is. I'm gonna end with the 160,000 view video. I think we are. Mostly because it was just so silly. And I think if you don't see... At first I was really frustrated by the fact that it had gone that viral. Because there are a lot of things I put a lot of effort into that don't go that viral. And now it's just funny. So, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out. There will be more of these this week because I don't have physiotherapy or occupational therapy this week. And this is how I'm going to occupy my time. But I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your favorite ink was from this. I think it was Diamine Harmony, which was very early on in today's video, and I honestly don't know where the swatch is anymore. But this was a great time, and I hope you enjoyed. And we still have not actually started on the wall of bottles behind me from when I film at the desk. So that'll be fun. Apparently I have a lot more inks than I thought. So I hope you have a good evening.